Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Catholic OCD Podcast. We are continuing our journey on salvation history, the crash course on the major Old Testament covenants. Today, I got my buddy AJ in the studio. We're going to go over part 2 of Abraham. We're going to go from Abraham through Isaac to Jacob. That's the topic. Stay tuned and learn something. My man AJ is back. Not only is he back in the studio,
what up, dog?
But AJ is back in America.
And I am so excited to be back in America. No joke.
Where were you at again? Anywhere?
Where wasn't I? That's the So I had really just this opportunity. I had a trip planned to go to Israel for the first time. I had never been to Israel. I started this like a year ago. I started planning it. I almost went 2 years ago. Long story. And then in preparation for my podcast at Pastor AJ Platt, I was looking up video of the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, and I ran across a guy at discoveredsinai.com. It's discovered with an ED at the end, discoveredsinai.com, who plans tours to Egypt and the real Mount Sinai in Saudi Arabia, so you can go see the real location of the Red Sea crossing, not the fake Mount Sinai at St. Catherine's Monastery, but the real Mount Sinai in Saudi
Israel.
Arabia. Yes. I'm sorry, what?
Bad joke. Yours Israel.
Oh,
You're in
I
Israel.
got it, man. You got to hit the laugh track for that one, man. There you go.
I had the recording at my own house.
So that's where I was
when I tell jokes.
Yeah. Isn't it probably a bummer, like when you're talking to your wife and you don't have a laugh track when you say your dad joke and nobody laughs at you?
What's really bad is when she doesn't get my Seinfeld references.
Oh, man.
Like even, you were late coming into the studio
sad.
And you were like, I'm sorry about the delay. I was like,
Yeah.
Vandalay Industries.
And then I had another one to give right back to you, T-Bone.
About
right?
the T-Bone.
The T-Bone episode when George
T-Bone.
had Yeah, George wanted the nickname T-Bone.
Yeah.
Because my neighbor across the street's nickname is T-Bone.
But he got Coco the Monkey.
Yeah, that's what...
Coco the Monkey.
Yeah.
So we want to talk about bringing you in here today because we're continuing with Abraham.
Yeah.
What we've done in this salvation history crash course so far is we went through Adam and Eve in the fall, man, and how sin enters us. Went from that to Noah and the ark and the typology between baptism with that and even the ark being a foreshadowing of the church.
Okay.
At least patristically speaking.
Okay.
Basically went from that to now you have this right before Abraham, you're going to have the separation of the languages.
Okay.
Really, God's going to separate
Babel.
in order to pick out
Yeah.
a person. So picture you got like 100 marbles, all these different languages. You spread them out
Yeah.
to pick this one.
Yeah.
That's going to be, but the purpose of picking this one
The chosen marble.
is to basically for reunification that's going to happen eventually. And we're going to see this reverse, the babbling or the separation of languages. We're going to see this reversed with the birth of the church and with Pentecost.
Okay.
Where we're going to see the Holy Spirit come down like tongues of fire, and now Peter's going to go out and he's going to preach, and all these different people from different languages are going to understand him.
I had a seminary professor who, 7-Up was the Uncola back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny is now I think about that Uncola, it almost sounds like Uncoola, like it's uncool.
Yeah.
But he used to call Pentecost the Unbabble.
Oh, really?
The Unbabble.
The Unbabble.
Yes, the Unbabble.
So we went from that to basically now we get Abram.
Yeah.
Gets changed to Abraham. God gives him the covenant of circumcision.
Yeah.
Really to mark out God's people. Abraham is basically told he's going to have this child. He gets impatient. Him and his wife both get impatient. His wife's like, hey, maybe you should sleep with your, with the slave girl.
Yeah.
And Abraham's like, cool. And he does it. And then you have
And then he's got to get rid
Ishmael.
of her a short time later.
Yeah. And you know how how Abraham's first son got his name, actually, a lot of people don't know this, is when he was coming out of the womb, the doctor saw his little thingy there, and he goes, I got good news, Ishmael.
Oh, my goodness.
So
there's a dad joke.
There's
right
a dad
there.
joke.
Oh, my, Ishmael.
Yeah.
You threw out Israel and Ishmael. In
Israel,
two
Ishmael?
successive jokes
Yes.
there, man. That's
And
to be like...
they just came to me.
It's like that's the joke to end all jokes right there. I think the apocalypse is
That should end all worlds, So, anyways, now I want to get to Isaac, the
Okay.
truly promised
Yes.
one.
Yeah.
Okay? So, basically what happens here is Abraham now is at the ripe old age of 100
Okay.
when
Yeah.
Isaac is
Yeah,
going
what
to
better
be
age
born.
to have a child,
Yeah. Yeah, honestly. Picture like, I
Why
remember
not?
I
Why
was
not?
34 the last time my wife got pregnant, and I remember even that, like, she was like, we're having a fourth kid. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So that's honestly,
Holy cow, man.
that's how Abraham's second child
geez.
got his name. Because Sarah was like, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And you're like 100. He's like, oh, I'm sick.
Oh, wow.
batting 1,000
Nick, they
today.
keep coming out, man.
People are like, I wish they
wanna
would
see you-
stop.
I want to see you come up with jokes for all of the 12 tribes now, because you've done,
Oh, I could.
What's Jacob?
Huh?
What's Jacob?
Well, he's not one of the 12 tribes.
No, but I mean, he's the next one after Isaac. So
Well, that would be the Israel one, though.
Oh, yeah, you did Israel. Okay, so now you got to do the 12 tribes.
Yeah.
All 12.
All tribe? All 12?
All 12, yeah. Zebulun. I want to hear your thing for Zebulun.
Well, his favorite band was Led Zeppelin, right? So that's my favorite band.
Man, 4 kids. That must have been what's done it to you.
It is.
You're I'm not even that quick, man.
That's when
incredible.
it's
Led Zebulun.
Led Zeppelin.
I was thinking like some kind of sleep medication or something.
Yeah.
Zebulun, like it'll help you, have dreams
You
like
need
Joseph.
more Z's, get Zeppelin. So Abraham now is 100, okay? And he has Isaac.
Yes.
Now, what ends up happening is we're going to see this cold, really jealous heart of Sarah.
Oh, yeah.
Because all of a sudden,
those women.
Picture like Ishmael playing real nice.
She thought it was a good idea. I see. The thing is, I think we need to point this out. She thought it was a good idea at first, and then she's changing her mind.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Doesn't sound like, that's weird because women usually don't do that.
Yeah, it's so strange. Isn't that how it usually goes?
Yeah. They tell you to sleep with your maid servant,
Jeez.
and then they get mad at you when you do. You know what I mean? Hypocrisy.
Ugh.
So what ends up happening is Ishmael's, I don't know how old Ishmael would be at this time.
Yeah.
Let's say he's like 6 or something, and he's playing with Isaac.
Little 6-year-old Ishmael.
And so Sarah sees this, and she's like, I don't want this kid. He's not sharing in the inheritance or anything like that. And basically, she convinces Abraham to, like, listen, you got to send them out. So Abraham's like, he's going to send Hagar and Ishmael out.
Yeah.
But, like, he does the manly thing, gives them some bread and some water before he sends them into the desert, They go out into the desert and basically
give birth to the Islamic nation.
Yeah, basically give birth to the Islamic nation, which would come about, 600 AD.
At least they claim anyways.
It's funny because even Hagar basically gets to a point where she has to distance herself from Ishmael because she's like, I just can't watch him die.
Yeah.
And basically God makes this promise that Ishmael's going to live. And he's going to have these descendants. Yeah. They're going to fight with each other and everybody. Yeah. And that's basically going to be his bloodline. So now we have Isaac, who really is the beloved son of Abraham. Yeah. Now I want to hop on to Genesis chapter 22. It says, sometime after these events, God put Abraham to the test. He called to him, Abraham. Ready, he replied. Then God said, take your son Isaac, your only one whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. There you shall offer him up as a holocaust on a height that I will point out to you. Early the next morning, Abraham saddled his donkey, took with him his son Isaac and 2 of his servants as well. And with the wood that he had cut for the holocaust, he set out for the place of which God had told him. On the 3rd day, Abraham got sight of the place from afar. Then he said to his servants, both of you stay here with the donkey, while the boy and I go over yonder. We will worship and then come back to you. Therefore, Abraham took the wood for the holocaust and laid it on his son Isaac's shoulder, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. And the 2 walked on together.
So he carried his own wood.
On his back. Isaac spoke to his father Abraham. Father, he said. Yes, son. He replied. Isaac continued, here are the fire and the wood, but where is the sheep for the holocaust? Son, Abraham answered, God himself will provide the sheep for the holocaust. Then the 2 continued going forward. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. Next, he tied up his son Isaac and put him on top of the wood on the altar. Then he reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the Lord's messenger called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Yes, Lord, he answered. Do not lay your hands on the boy, said the messenger. Do not do the least thing to him. I know now how devoted you are to God, since you did not withhold from me your own beloved son. As Abraham looked about, he spied a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. So he went and took the ram and offered it up as a holocaust in place of his son. Abraham named the site Yahweh Yireh. Hence, people now say on the mountain, the Lord will see. So, basically, Abraham has his only beloved son. He's been waiting for this for a long time.
Yeah.
He's 100.
Yeah, jeez.
And then one day, God's like, hey, take this only beloved son. What's interesting is, you ever hear of, or get into Kierkegaard?
Yeah, man.
So Kierkegaard writes about
Soren, good old Soren.
Yeah, Soren. Yeah, he's flying high. He's Soren.
I call him Soren.
You guys are
You
first
are
name
a
basis.
dad joke factory.
Oh yeah. The key is you can't.
That's going to be your nickname, dad joke. Not
You
T-Bone.
can't tell good
DJ
dad jokes unless you got a gut. That's the people. See, people try to say.
So my 6-pack won't handle it.
No, yeah, you and your 38-pack. Okay,
8-pack. It's actually an 8-pack.
It's an 8-pack.
It's technically an 8-pack.
Well, here's the
You
thing,
have
though.
8 muscles there, so
You're having a party. Do you want somebody coming with a 8-pack or a keg? I bring the
it
keg.
depends how good the beer is.
Yeah. My keg is just full of dad jokes. So Abraham's...
I bring some quality craft beer to the table.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Some Guinness.
8 solid pieces. Guinness.
So Abraham takes Isaac, and Kierkegaard makes this thing about where that little detail about Abraham woke up early.
Yeah.
Why early? Kierkegaard for you guys listening who don't know who Kierkegaard is, and you still don't know why you're still listening to the show. Kierkegaard basically is the father, really, of existentialism. And he's actually a Christian.
Yeah.
You know? But Kierkegaard has this thing of Abraham woke up early. Why? Because he's filled with anxiety. And Kierkegaard's going to make this point about listen, at this point, faith and philosophy can't have any say-so in this extreme thing of faith. Kind of like, you have to get to a point in your faith where it makes no sense. That's why you believe it.
Yeah.
And he basically makes it sound like if there was all these philosophers today, they would be like, Abraham, listen, God told you to take your son. What does that really mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't literally mean take your son up on that mountain and kill him, but it must mean like you have to show your son the way. And Kierkegaard's basically like somebody would have made up some stuff and talked Abraham actually out of the test.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But Abraham gets up and goes.
He's obedient.
He's nervous and he's full of anxiety, and he takes his son. And now, go ahead. You were talking about the imagery that you see with Isaac carrying wood.
Yeah, you got you got Isaac carrying his wood like someone else we know that carried wood up a hill to become the sacrifice that Isaac foreshadowed, symbolized on Mount Moriah. And just being there in Jerusalem, that's where the temple is allegedly built or was allegedly built. And today on the Temple Mount, you've got the Dome of the Rock, the Islamic, holy church, holy mosque, and in that place you actually can see supposedly the stone that Isaac was sacrificed on. Now they'll give you their Islamic propaganda that Isaac wasn't really sacrificed; it was really Ishmael, and they got their whole satanic twist on God's truth on the Bible story. But actually up on top of the Temple Mount today, and under that dome, you actually have the rock, which was supposed to be the summit of the mountain of Mount Moriah, that's still there. That you can see inside the Dome of the Rock if you are graced to go in.
I think a lot of
this sacrifice took place, or this near sacrifice took place.
I think a lot of people think that it's weird because a lot of people think that Islam is like so much more ancient.
Yeah.
Than like Christianity. And it's not even, it's like 600 close, years,
700 years
afterwards. Right, and, but that's what Islam does is it doesn't just say, okay, there is no Bible, everything in the Bible is false.
No,
it just twists it. It tweaks it.
And it rejects, really it rejects the basic tenets of Christianity is what it rejects, And the thing is like
it's just it leaves enough about Christianity to make it to where it doesn't save you.
Yeah, exactly. It does. It takes away the. They believe in the virgin birth, ironically,
with the trumpet.
But they don't believe in the sacrificial atonement, death, and then the resurrection of Jesus, which are the biggest. Those are really the biggest pieces of our faith. So the gospel, everything that we believe, salvation.
Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in the physical resurrection either.
Yeah. In my opinion, if you look at Islam, and I'm probably going to make somebody mad by saying this, but I've got Mormon friends. I think if you've ever studied the beginnings of Mormonism, I think there's a lot of similarities between the beginnings, Joseph Smith and the beginnings of Mormonism and the beginnings of Islam. Both of them come out of like a period of confusion of the prophet or alleged prophet in the case of Joseph Smith and Muhammad. And they had certain ways that they, received from God and so on. In Muhammad's case, he became a military leader. But there's actually a lot of paganism in Islam.
Yeah.
If you look at Mecca and the worship of the rock and the stone and Mecca and all that stuff, that basically was a pagan temple before the Muslims took it over and converted it. But yeah.
Are you old enough to remember Pee-wee's Playhouse?
Oh, yes.
I remember whenever I still want to hear Mecca. Remember the genie would go, Mecca hecka ha, Mecca hano. Mecca hecka ha, Mecca tanito.
And I really wonder about Pee-wee's Playhouse. What went on there?
Yeah, we don't play there.
We don't. It doesn't really sound like the kind of place I'd feel comfortable taking my kid to.
I agree with you, though. When you look at Mormonism and Islam, basically, okay, here's these people trying to serve God.
Yeah.
They basically realize, okay, wait, who is right? Oh, that's right. Nobody's right.
Yeah.
And then here comes this messenger, whether it's an angel or like Joseph Smith sees God, the Father and the Son. And then they tell him, everybody has it wrong. So here's the new prophecy. And you feel bad because if somebody in the Bible would have ever warned about, like, listen, if anybody else comes and gives you a gospel different than what's we preach to you.
Yeah.
Even if it's an angel of light, let that person be anathema.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever say that? Because I think I remember St. Paul actually saying that in Galatians.
My understanding of, the Mormons were persecuted. They were pushed out west, basically.
Yeah.
But the Christians that lived during the time of the rise of Islam thought that, I don't know how prevalent this was, but I would imagine pretty, that Muhammad was the false prophet of Revelation. So, I'm sure... which you got somebody calling themselves a prophet, and they give rise to this, massive religion, and it's taking over formerly Christian lands. I would imagine that was pretty
Did you
terrifying.
know Muhammad was basically raised by Arian monks from Arius?
Yes, yeah.
So basically, kind of would have taught by monks of the non-divinity.
And he lived in
Christ.
It seems like I'm not at all an expert on Islam, but if you talk to experts, at least in my experience, or if you listen to them, even if you just watch them or watch a video of people who have either converted from Islam to Christianity or people who have studied the religion, that just Muhammad didn't know what he was talking about in terms of when he wrote some of the things that he wrote. He was dealing with apocryphal works and beliefs about Jesus, or Gnostic beliefs about Jesus, as though it was representative of all of Christianity.
Yeah.
And so that's what we still deal with today when we deal with
Christianity.
Yeah, when we deal with, you listen to Muslims talk about, they'll reject the Gospel of John as just counterfeit,
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of Trinitarian, it's
but they believe
that's a lot of what they center on is the Trinity. That's a lot of what they rail against.
But I think they believe Mary is part of the Trinity. Their assumption, I think, was that Mary is actually, I think, part of the Trinity.
Well, they say, I think,
it shows you they didn't understand.
That they didn't really understand what the
all.
Trinity was. Yeah. So that's what I meant, is that they were, kind of, and in my experience, having just been over there and been immersed in an Islamic culture for the better part of a month, every Muslim that I met was incredibly nice. I didn't have anybody hold a gun to my head. It's just like being in a Christian culture where people aren't necessarily connected to the truths of Scripture. Maybe they're culturally Islamic or they're culturally Christian.
And I've talked with some of them, man, they get so excited and passionate about their faith. And again, there's so many that are, they're nice people, but
the core tenets are satanic, and they're twisting the truth of God.
It's very twisted historically.
I hate to say it like that, but it's let's be real. That's what it is. It rejects the it twists the story that you just read from holy inspired Scripture and into something else. And that story, I think, getting back to everything that you were kind of talking about, is representative really of the larger story of Scripture in terms of Christ's sacrificial death. I think that's the big message behind Abraham and Isaac.
You got this.
It's a foreshadowing of Christ.
Only beloved son, which I believe this is the first time the Bible actually uses the term love.
Yeah.
It's the only beloved son. He is going to take the wood for his sacrifice. He's going to carry it on his back.
Yeah.
He's going to go up this mountain. And you think about it, Abraham's 100. So at this age, Isaac's strong enough to carry this wood. So he's stronger than Abraham.
Yeah.
This means that once they get to the point where the sacrifice is ready to begin, you have to realize, I think, that Isaac is submissive at this point. Down at the bottom, he doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But before he gets tied up, this 100-year-old man doesn't just manhandle this strong, younger man.
Yeah.
Or younger, even if he's a teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. So at this point, you think well, how old is Abraham? Abraham might even be 115 at this point. So you see this son, this only beloved son, who is submissive to the will of his father, to be offered as a sacrifice. And then you see the angel stop them. And then you see that he provides this, really, this ram is a king lamb caught in the thorns?
Yeah.
What king lamb do we see caught in the thorns?
Yeah. And, it's like, I've always thought when I heard that story and really started to understand that it wasn't just about Abraham, that there was a bigger metaphor happening there. And that actually explains why, people, they get bent out of shape over that, man. I mean, I remember showing a video, a depiction of that from the Bible miniseries. This is like 10 years ago. I was preaching in my church, and I showed like a short 5-minute clip from the Bible miniseries that they did on the History Channel at the time of Abraham going to sacrifice Isaac. And people don't understand that. Why would God, how could God call somebody, his follower, to do such a thing? And I think when you understand the larger metaphor, it makes sense. God's not going to call anybody to sacrifice. Actually, he commands against that,
right,
in Scripture. So
that's actually what all other religions did.
Yeah. So he's not going to call somebody to do that, but it was this bigger picture. And I remember when I understood,
people do that today for their career.
They do, yeah. They do in other ways, right?
Yeah.
But like when I understood that, it really it changed my whole understanding of everything. I think it helps you to see why, number one, why God did it in the first place. So it explains the why. Yeah. Why God was giving us a broader picture of a much more significant scriptural story. And from early on in the pages of Scripture too. That's the other piece of it. I mean, this is he wants us to get this.
And you see Christ early on. And some of the stuff can't be coincidence. Yeah. And even if you're thinking like, listen, this typology sounds good, but I still like, it's a mountain. And even if I tell you, it's the same mountain, kind of really, and even if I, were to tell you, you have his only beloved son, takes the wood on his back that he'll be sacrificed, goes up, you see the king lamb offered instead. God's basically saying, you were going to sacrifice your son for me. I will do the same to you. Even if you think all of that isn't good enough to convince you of the typology, then here's the one that I think is undeniable. What mountain was it that they went up?
Mount Moriah.
And when Isaac went up, what did he do with the wood on his back?
Yeah.
He carried
it, right.
Okay, so we celebrate, we see it has to do with Christ. We celebrate Christ at Christmas. The most famous Christmas song that's played every year is by who? Mariah Carey. You carry the wood up Moriah.
I'll tell you what, Nick, I don't know. You keep going, man.
Is that a coincidence?
I might have to go throw up in the bathroom if I hear one more dad joke, man. But the other
Mariah
thing
Carey.
The other thing it explains is not only why God put the story in Scripture, but it also explains why he staved Abraham's hand from the sacrifice.
Yeah.
That it also explains that, so like not only does it explain this grander story, this grander metaphor in Scripture, this grander reality that God was going to do in the future, but it also explains why, because I've heard it taught, and I think that this is maybe a piece of the story, that God was doing a work in Abraham's heart. Like, I think that that's true. Like, in the church that I grew up in, and at least spiritually grew up in, there was one of the message that I remember the most from my mentor was a message called "Give Me Your Isaac." That was the name of the message, and it was basically talking about how God was doing this work in Abraham's heart. And I think that's true. God was doing a work in Abraham's heart. We say what? Abraham was tested.
Yeah.
Which doesn't just mean like he was tested in terms of pass or fail, but he was being refined. You often say about a metal that it's being retested.
Tested by fire.
So he was going to be the father of many nations, and so God was testing him so that he could use him, in the future. Yes, but I think the smaller piece of what was going on there was the work that God was doing in Abraham. The larger thing is that he was giving this picture. So you have not just this. Genesis itself as a book ends with this story of Joseph. And I don't want to steal your thunder for when you go there, but I'm sure people have read it before.
That's next week.
Next week, okay.
Joseph.
So you have this incredible this incredible reflection of Christ, of the gospel, really, in Joseph's life, in bringing salvation to the world like he did.
Yeah.
Sitting at the right hand of Pharaoh, and so on.
Going from being pulled from the pit,
basically. And so all this, so you have the gospel, and so to me, it's actually ironic because it's made me wonder how on earth there are still Jews that don't believe in Jesus, because from the opening pages of Scripture,
you get to the third chapter.
If you just read Genesis, it's like Genesis is really in and of itself just this giant proof of Christ, of the coming Christ, and what his work was going to be, what his sacrificial death was.
Yeah.
I mean, and in the fact that Abraham, it's basically like God saying, okay, to Abraham, go sacrifice your son. So he goes, and then the angel says, no, stop. So just the fact that God stops Abraham from doing it says to me there's a greater sacrifice coming, and that Isaac is not he's still a flawed human being. Isaac cannot be the seed of the woman. Isaac cannot be this promise that was given in Genesis chapter 1, the proto-evangelion, the proto-gospel, in Genesis 3:15 or whatever it is.
3:15.
Isaac can't be the fulfillment of that. Cain, Eve seemed to maybe think that, at least textually, it seems like maybe Eve believed that Cain was the fulfillment of this promise. Cain couldn't be that.
Right.
Isaac couldn't be that. God said no. Moses couldn't be that. He couldn't stand in the gap.
No.
David was a flawed man. He couldn't be that. These people, even Joseph, they were representations of the coming Christ.
And they fall
short
except for one person.
Yeah.
So I want to move on real quickly then. We went from Abraham, so Isaac does not get sacrificed, okay? Which he was very happy about that. Abraham's probably like, "Did you really think I was going to kill you, dude?"
I wonder what he said. Like, what was the dialogue on the way up there?
Did you really think?
Like, was Isaac? And I don't think he was, but I mean, I think it's funny to think of him carrying that wood up there, and I almost picture like Larry the Cucumber from VeggieTales, like, oh, Dad, okay, oh yeah, you need some wood? Okay, I'll bring the wood for you, Dad. Hey, where are we going now? Almost like he's like a version of Pinocchio.
Or how about on the way down, like, oh, did you really think I was? I was just messing. I wasn't really going to kill you. Did you? You're my son. I wouldn't do that. He's like, tell that to Ishmael.
That's the more important question. On the way down, how did they have a relationship after this incident? I mean,
the trust issues.
What on earth? Like, what did Isaac think the next time Abraham called him for dinner? Like, am I going to be dinner?
Yeah.
Like,
hey, go get some wood. It's cold. Wait, why?
Yeah.
I told you I'll clean my room later.
This was the beginning of daddy issues.
Yeah.
Isaac.
So Isaac then goes on he gets married, okay? Isaac's going to marry Rebecca, and they are going to have 2 sons.
Yeah.
Okay, and they're going to have Esau and Jacob.
Kind of a parallel of Ishmael and Isaac.
So again, you had Ishmael and Isaac, where the covenant blessing kind of breaks the code and actually goes with the second born.
Got to be born again. I think somebody else said that somewhere.
Well, and maybe that could be the symbolism, though.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Real. I think it is for sure.
Because and then you look at, now we have Esau and Jacob, and basically Esau is kind of like the daddy's favorite. He's real hairy. He was probably Italian.
What father doesn't want a hairy son?
Yes.
I mean,
that's why you name your kids Harry.
My son, my only begotten, he's not very hairy.
Not very hairy.
Such a disappointment.
He doesn't have the Paisan blood.
Yeah, he does. He's got a quarter.
Well, not enough.
Well, I have a quarter.
He has an eighth.
Yeah.
But so Esau's like the manly man, right? Yeah. He hunts. He's like, Dad, hey, look, I killed this.
He's the hairy hunter.
The hairy hunter. And then you have Jacob, who basically helps mom in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay. And
he's a little sissy,
that's why you named your son Jacob, because he wasn't the hairy one.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening?
The sissy soup maker.
Yeah, the sissy soup maker. So when Esau goes out and hunts, Jacob's helping in the kitchen. Well, Isaac's sick. Isaac's basically on his deathbed.
Yeah.
Abraham has passed away, obviously, by this time. Isaac is on his deathbed, and basically he's like blind at this point. And Jacob's mom says, hey, your brother's hunting. Go get your dad's blessing. Now, at this point, too, we have to also understand, one day Esau came in from hunting.
There's the woman again, getting all manipulative.
Esau came in from hunting one day, and he's like, man, I'm starving, and Jacob's making this soup.
Yeah.
And he's like, give me some soup, bro. And he's like, I ain't giving you soup. He's like, come on, I'm starving, bro. He's like, I'll tell you what, give me your birthright. I'll give you some soup. And Esau's like, all right, man, I'm starving. It smells good. So he gives away his birthright.
Yeah.
And then when Isaac is dying, Rebekah's going to tell Jacob, listen, go kill an animal. Go put the fur like on your arms.
Yeah.
Go pretend like you're your brother Esau, and then get the blessing. And he goes in, and Isaac's like, is that you, Esau? And he's like, yeah, it's me, Pop. Well, let me feel your hairy arms. And he fills them. He's like, oh, wow, these are nice.
They must have been pretty hairy of a goat skin full.
Yeah. You know? And basically what happens is he gives the blessing to Jacob.
Yeah.
When Esau comes in, he goes in, and it's a thing where, like, once the blessing got given, it couldn't be taken back. And Isaac's like oh, wait a minute. That was your brother. I gave your blessing away. And again, here's his older brother who's really ticked off at the younger brother. Jacob and Esau part ways after this. Jacob will be wandering in the desert. And one night, basically, an angel of God is going to come.
Bethel.
And wrestle with...
Bethel.
I
thought you meant the dream that he had.
The ladder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Explain Jacob's ladder.
Yeah. Well, Jacob has at Bethel, at the house of God, he falls asleep. This is when he flees after he runs away from Esau, and he falls asleep, puts his head on a rock, and has I was trying to think of a dad joke there, man. A total failure. Not like you. His head on a rock. I was trying to think of something for a rock, and I couldn't. He put his head on a rock,
and God told him to start a church here called Bethel Church.
Yes. There you go. All right. But he has this dream about this basically probably what was similar to a ziggurat. I know that they call it Jacob's ladder. Sometimes it comes across in the translation that way. But it was angels ascending and descending to heaven, basically. What we would say is representative of the person of Christ, because it was similar to Stephen, the martyr's vision that he had of Jesus, angels ascending and descending on the Son of Man, on Jesus, right before he died and was martyred. So
you view that ladder as a connection from heaven
to earth. And so so you have
or this bridge basically, which is Christ.
Right. So I think that's the significance of the birthright, is that the birthright only goes to one. Those blessings of the blessing that was given to Abraham, that he would be that all nations on earth would be blessed. I think that's what Jacob was seeking. It went to Isaac. And you see between Jacob and Esau the difference between faith and unbelief. Jacob is the one, now he goes about it through deceptive means, and he kind of gets what's coming to him in the person of Laban and his father-in-law and all that stuff. But
live by the shiest, die by the shiest. Or marry an ugly broad by the shiest.
Sounds like an Italian mafia term right there.
Yeah.
But you see, like, Jacob, even in his sort of, convoluted way, he understands the promise, and he goes after it, with his whole heart. He goes after this promise. His mom helps him along a little bit, but he goes after the promise of the birthright. That's what he was looking for. And that's what he understood. He understood and believed in the promise given to his grandfather, Abraham. He understood what was given to Isaac, which is a whole nother conversation. And that's, I've always wondered, Isaac was the second born. Mm-hmm. He saw God's pattern through his father Abraham. And I always thought it was interesting that he was just kind of, he favored the firstborn, and that he sort of had to be manipulated into doing the right thing, which was passing the blessing on to
the second.
Which is where it was supposed to go in terms of God's sovereign plan.
But you could look at it because the promise was given to Sarah.
Remember Jacob switched his hands on Joseph's. Remember?
Yeah. Yeah. When you view this and you see this is like what Paul's really going to talk about, especially in Romans, like this is this predestined covenant moving, no matter what somebody's views are.
You're talking like a Calvinist.
Yeah. Well, but as far as the salvation history goes, from God picks Abraham. He picks him. This is God's choice to pick Abraham. And then out of Abraham, he's going to pick Isaac. The covenant, don't try to force my hand on the covenant. Yeah. Oh, we'll have a son. This will be Ishmael. He'll be the covenant. No. The covenant goes to where I say, to the promise. That's Isaac. And then the covenant's going to go to Jacob.
Well, there's also, I mean, you brought up metaphor. I think there is also a symbolism with the second born. You see that repeatedly in Scripture. Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
You see it with Cain and Abel. You see it with the first Adam and the last Adam. You see it with the Abraham's kids. You see it with Isaac's kids. You see it with Jacob. Jacob's second wife was the one that he loved. Was his, Rachel was the one through whom Joseph was born.
And Benjamin or no?
Joseph and Benjamin. Yeah.
Okay.
But you also see it with the two kings of Israel, and David and Saul and David. The first king was a king of the flesh, and the second king was the man after God's own heart. And you see him. So there's others too, but there's the second. So I kind of think that's what Jesus was getting at with Nicodemus when he says, "You're a teacher of Israel and you don't understand these things."
About being the rebirth.
It's throughout Scripture that God's choice is not just to be born of the flesh, but to be born of the Spirit, to have the second birth and know God in your heart, to be circumcised in your heart. Because that metaphor is not just in the New Testament. That's an Old Testament thing.
Yeah. And I think that this is very important for like when you're reading the Scripture.
Which baptism symbolizes that. So as Christians, that's what our baptism symbolizes, is that circumcision of the heart, that rebirth of the heart, being born of the Spirit.
Yeah, symbolizes, participates in. But there's.
I didn't say that for division. I was just.
There is a symbolic view of. But it's not just, we wouldn't just say, as a Catholic, it's not merely a symbol. There are things that are tangible to something that's a greater thing that's
it's
happening.
also showing
it's not just about washing yourself, but there is a circumcision of heart.
Right.
That is the key thing with it. But what I want to make clear with this is, as we go through this Bible stuff in the Old Testament, you have to realize as a listener, don't think that you're going to read the Bible, okay, this is just one story from Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation. This is really, we read it, here's the Old Testament, here's the New Testament. Here's the mic I just broke. Here's the Old Testament and New Testament. And you kind of read them like this. They really do, parallel each other.
And then sometimes they talk over and over, it's the same, like it's, you see Jesus and Jesus and Jesus and Jesus, like, and all these different.
He's in all of it. Yeah. And this is why Augustine says that the Old Testament, the New Testament is concealed in the Old, and that the Old Testament is basically like revealed then in the New Testament. So Jacob now, who's also then going to wrestle with this angel until he gets this blessing.
And this is after he goes to, so he has his dream at Bethel, and then he goes to meet his future bride or brides.
Yeah. And this angel's going to come wrestle.
Back, he ends up wrestling with.
And basically he says, I'm not going to quit wrestling until you give me a blessing. And the angel's like, cool, I'll touch your hip. I'm going to pop your bone out of place.
Another thing you could see is faith. Like that he understands who he's wrestling with. He understands that he's seeking God's blessing.
Yeah.
And that's really what he was doing his whole life. He did it,
And at this point, Jacob's name gets changed from Jacob to Israel, which means one who wrestles with God. And at this point, so from Seth, they're viewed as the Semites. Abraham, they're really viewed as the Hebrews. And now with Israel, the person, they're going to be known as the Israelites for a while now.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is Israel basically is going to have 12 sons, which will be the 12 tribes of Israel.
And that kind of defines us, too, as Christians, by the way. I mean, we're grafted into Israel.
Yeah, this is the root, which actually you reminded me. I want to read this part before we close, because so this is from the Catechism, and this is just actually all the way back to the beginning of section 59. It says, in order to gather together scattered humanity, God calls Abram from his country, his kindred, and his father's house, and makes him Abraham, that is, the father of a multitude of nations. In you, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. The people descended from Abraham would be the trustees of the promise made to the patriarchs, the chosen people, called to prepare for that day when God would gather all his people into the unity of the church. They, meaning basically like the Israelites, would be the root onto which the Gentiles would be grafted once they came to believe. The patriarchs, prophets, and certain other Old Testament figures have been and always will be honored as saints in all the church's liturgical traditions. After the patriarchs, God formed Israel as his people by freeing them from slavery in Egypt. Well, I don't want to go too far because I'm going to save that for next time.
Ooh.
But, so this was our little thing with finishing
already?
up. It's over already. It's been like 4 hours. And I got to have time to sneak you in for one more episode.
Oh, yeah.
So this is Abraham.
Yeah.
Right? Abraham through Isaac, the beginning of the Hebrew people. God is going to only deal really with this bloodline of Abraham for like the next, from the time of Abraham, he's going to do this for like 1900 years.
Crazy.
He's just going to deal with these people. All right, guys, I'm your host, Nick Nolfi. I want to thank Pastor AJ. Make sure you check out Pastor AJ's YouTube channel, and thank him for coming on the show. All right, guys, like, subscribe. If you got any questions, leave a comment. Sounds good? Peace out.